The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to connect with our affiliate sponsor, GSM Growth Agency. They're boosting e-commerce businesses to 6 and 7 figures in revenue and cover everything from ads and social media influencers to making your website better. GSM Growth Agency focuses on taking businesses from startup success to bigger success, going above and beyond to make sure growth sticks around. They're all about cool ideas, lasting partnerships, and making your mark in the e-commerce world. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services. All right, welcome to another episode of the show. For those of you listening out there in your favorite directory, leave us a 5-star review. If you're watching us on YouTube, like us, subscribe to the channel so we can keep connecting with great people like our guest today. So Jeff's going to join me in a minute. I like when I have guests on who are, everyone's a business owner, but who can really talk about resources and stuff. I always have this conversation about SEO and websites and, marketing on the internet and trying to be heard. And I think it's going to be a really good conversation. So let's get through the credits and we'll say hello to Jeff in a minute.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests, where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode. All right. Jeff, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I appreciate taking the time. How did we connect? Somebody introduced us, right?
Yes, it was Barry Cohen who introduced us.
Cohen, right. Barry's my co-author on my book, 10 Ways to Get Sued by Anyone and Everyone. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I know you're a programmer. I know you're a web guy. And we're going to talk about SEO and everything. Maybe we want to go back a little bit about your background, computer science and all that kind of stuff, and then how you got into what you're doing today. We got an hour, so,
All right. Well, then I'll give you lots of details.
Sounds good.
I've always been drawn to computers ever since I was little. I was building computers in high school, taking computer classes, and I've been helping adults use them since I was in elementary school. And really, aside from my dad's home computer had a turbo button. I don't know if you remember those, but those were fun. The 386, and you press turbo.
Yeah,
yay!
Right,
Nobody really knew what it did, but you just kept it on all the time. My school also had in elementary school we had a computer lab, and so we'd go in there and we got introduced to basic programming and computer usage. Floppy disks were actually floppy, the 5 1/4 inch floppies.
Wow.
We got to do Oregon Trail, and
So 5 1/4.
I know, right? But
3 1/2.
I'm part of the Oregon Trail generation. I'm right in between.
Okay.
I'm not really millennial or Gen X. Like I've got the overlap of both. So I grew up with analog technologies and more digital stuff. So it's actually a cool place to be. And so I think that really shapes, me growing up and my interests and everything else like that.
Right.
But
There were
yeah,
websites.
I've always been.
There was no internet.
Yeah, I do a lot of websites. But what sets me apart too is that I know the computer science side of things. Like I understand what's happening on the server. I can do the integrations or fix the code issues that come up. Whereas most people will say, I can build you a website. They give like a pretty front end template or something, but
Yeah,
they
right.
don't necessarily know how to make it fast.
Yeah,
Right.
and sometimes there's programmers and sometimes there's designers, but yeah, having both skills is good. Okay, so that
Yeah.
was. So did you major in that in college?
In college, I studied information and computer science. So I specialized in software systems, which is basically programming. But I
Right.
also did part of a digital arts minor. I wanted to complete it, but since I wasn't in the School of the Arts, I had lower priority for getting into the classes. So I only got to take a few of those. But I've always had that creative side. My family has always been creative. I've got, my mom does choreography and sings,
Ah,
and I've got opera singers in the family. My grandma, my aunt, my dad plays guitar, does stuff on stage, all sorts of stuff.
very
So there's the creative side, and then I brought in this technical side, and it's kind of a nice unity of these two things that works really well for websites, right? Because it needs to look good, but it also has to work well. And so
right.
that's kind of been my sweet spot.
Yeah, no, definitely. A lot of the designers can design good stuff, but they don't know how to make it work right. So they're always telling the programmers, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" And they're like, "Well, So it's a constant battle. Yeah, I think it's good to have both the creative side and the technical side, because I think even as entrepreneurs, like we're all right brain, everybody wants to do all, the next shiny thing. They go out, they get a
Yeah.
product, they're into space, and they don't do any of the technical fundamental things they need to do to like figure out, is their business going to be profitable, and how are they going to market this thing, and who do they need to work for the business, and all that kind of stuff that they don't want to deal with. Nobody wants to write a business plan. They just want the business to be successful. Put up a website, people will come, they buy millions of dollars of product, then I don't have to work anymore. We know that's not true.
Yeah, it's all that easy. It feels like it should be that easy, but of course it's never not. And then we realize, oh, maybe I just picked the wrong thing. Let me pick something else and then go make the same mistakes over there. Right.
So Jeff, were you always kind of self-employed, or did you work for a company, come out of college, and eventually went on your own? Or
So I was not always self-employed. I did some internships through college, but then I worked at a company called Java Ground right after I graduated,
okay,
and we did cell phone games. And at that time, it was before smartphones took over the market, like really before they kind of went mainstream with the iPhone. So we had a business model, and we developed custom tools that allowed us to create a game, but then publish it to 200 different phone devices based on the specifications of each phone, because they had different screen sizes, different size memory, a different amount
right,
of storage that they could handle. So that was great, and we would charge per model that these publishers wanted. But then the iPhone came out, and then Sony would
right,
be like, we just want the game for the iPhone and like this other new smartphone. We're like,
right.
suddenly
Yeah,
that
the app,
business model doesn't work as well anymore.
right?
So
The
it,
one
it was a lot of
phone, now
fun though.
there's two, basically. Yeah, I mean, basically two operating systems now. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that business kind of died.
Yeah, they tried to like transition a little bit first into more of an online game platform, because we did a lot of games, right?
Yeah,
Kind of worked at first, but it didn't really pick up enough to sustain the business. So it kind of fizzled out and
got
was closed eventually. But
it, got
I
it.
left before that point and went back
Oh,
to UC Irvine as an academic counselor, which is totally unrelated to what I did,
right.
because I was part of the honors program there, and I loved the honors program, and they had an opening. They invited me to come back. I'm like, you know what? I would, if I didn't do this now, I probably would wonder and never, would try anything like this. So I did that for a few years, and then
Okay.
realized, I need to go actually use my degree and make some money, especially if I'm going to be getting married and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So it
So it
was
was
a fun experience.
academic advising was
Yeah.
in your school, in the School of Computer Science.
No, specifically for the honors program at UC Irvine. So they have a campus-wide honors
Oh,
program. So we had students from all
got it.
majors that would come in. And so, yes, I helped them with advising and course planning, figuring out their research for their thesis. But then we also had extracurricular side of things to the program, where we'd put on events for
Fun.
like enrichment stuff and trainings and all of that. So
Okay.
it was
But
a good
that was
experience. And
so when you left there, what'd you do from there? Did you go out on your own, or did you go back to a company?
so I went back to a company. After that, I went to a company called Federal Signal. They're based in Irvine. They do toll road software.
That
And
makes
that was interesting because you don't think about it, but when you drive on the toll road, the
yeah.
transponder beeps. Like
Somebody's got to
there's a lot
program
of
that.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of stuff that goes into that, and the billing, the follow-up, getting the images, making sure we can read the license plate if they didn't have a transponder. So a lot of things there, and that was interesting. And then they got bought by 3M while I was there. And we were
Oh,
like, wait, 3M, the tape, the sticky guys? Like, yes, that was them. They decided to get into tolling. Uh,
well, they're a
I think
huge
it was
conglomerate,
because,
aren't they?
yeah, they're huge. They've got so many different industries. But I think they had developed a material that they wanted to use for making that scanning process easier when
Oh,
cars go through the gantry on the toll roads. And so it had like some invisible ink basically that they could see with a special camera that would make it easier to just like scan it like a barcode instead of doing optical character recognition for the letters on a plate.
got it.
Problem was they didn't know how to run a software company,
Yeah.
and somewhere in their offices, some accountant said, hey, we could cut costs by moving the Irvine office to Texas. And
Right.
so they were like, okay, we're going to shut this down, and here's your package to move over to Texas. And most of us were
Nobody
like,
left.
we don't want to
You're
go to
like,
Texas.
exactly.
So after they really struggled after that, because that Irvine was where all the key talent was that was running the systems. So we all saw the writing on the wall, and we're like, we're not going to Texas. So I got other jobs after that.
Yeah.
I went to a biometric company
Okay.
called MorphoTrack. They do fingerprinting and stuff, the live scans
Right.
machines and
Right.
all of that. So I did more of the configuration management there. I got them from one build system to another, did a little bit of code work, but it was mostly the build stuff. Anyway, I
Right.
can just ramble on about different jobs I had if you want, but
No, well, my next question was, did you do websites and stuff like on the side, like while you were working,
yeah.
or so it was kind of a side hustle for a while? Do
Yeah,
you
and I'd
remember
always
the
done
first
that,
time?
even like in high school.
Yeah. Do you remember the first
I did
website
like
you
my
ever built?
dad's. Yeah, in high school was probably my first one. I actually had one for a class I did in a computer science class.
Okay.
It was a mock e-commerce store selling Afghans, and they were
Okay. Like the
assigned to us. I don't
blankets,
know.
right?
Yeah, the blankets. I didn't know what that was until I had to make a website for it.
Yeah.
So that was my first one. Then I'd do it here and there. Started with like HTML sites, hard coded, all
Yeah.
manual, and over time got more sophisticated. Eventually got into WordPress, and
Yeah.
yeah,
So mostly you do WordPress now? That's like the
yeah,
standard.
I do. I try to do it exclusively, but I occasionally jump onto a Shopify site or something else. But I like
Got it.
WordPress because it's fully flexible. I can do whatever I want.
Right. Open source, you got all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
when did you then go out on your own and you said, okay, well, I'm going to do this full time, run my own agency?
Well, after the biometric company, I joined a startup called Badu Networks, and we did
Okay.
a lot of cool stuff with accelerating network connections. And we had boxes that you could put in a network and speed up your upload and download speeds.
Okay.
And so I was part of that for a while, but as many startups often have cash flow issues.
Yeah.
And so it was during my time there that I started Frobro as a side thing, just because I was doing these websites, I might as well have a thing for it, right? But then as they had some cash flow issues, and I'm like, I really need to make sure I'm on stable ground just in case things don't go smoothly here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I kind of started shifting my focus over to Frobro and getting my own clients and building up my business there. And instead of just doing these one-off websites, I'm like, okay, I can host and maintain the websites. Okay, I can
Right.
help you get traffic to your websites. I can get you
Yeah.
do some SEO, and yeah, and so it kind of expanded from there. And uh, eventually, I made the conscious decision to kind of turn myself more into an agency or company where I've got teams of people doing this stuff. And so I
Yeah.
started making partnerships and expanding that way.
Now, are you just like a lot of the tech guys? Are you virtual for the most part? You don't have like an office where everybody comes. They're all over the place, right?
Yeah, I don't have an office at this point.
Right. You're all virtual.
It's very flexible. I've got 3 small kids, so the flexibility is key.
Yeah, of course. Now, that was even before the pandemic, right? I mean, you always operated that way, I would assume.
Pretty much. Well, at the startup, I would go to an office there, but
Yeah.
as far as
Right.
my business is concerned, yeah,
Yeah.
it's always been remote.
Remote. Okay. So do you remember the first website you got paid for with the company? I'm going to talk about like when you're in high school.
Oh, okay. With the company, the first one,
Yeah. Do you remember
that's a
who you
good
did?
question. I don't know if it was the first one, but I did a commercial landscaping site pretty early on. And then I did their sister company also, which has like exterior maintenance and street sweeping type stuff. So those were early ones. I don't know if they were my very first ones, but those are good ones.
So did you learn, I would assume in college, right? Because you're younger than me, but still a lot of the SEO stuff was still changing and maturing. Like, how did you learn all that stuff? How did you go from just programming a website to saying, okay, well, let's get traffic here, and how do we optimize it and all that kind of stuff? Was that just self-taught because there was nobody to teach it to you? Or
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
obviously still trying to figure it out, so that's why I'm asking.
sure. There's a lot to it. I mean, in college, it was all just programming and more purely computer science oriented stuff.
Right.
Once I started doing websites for businesses, I realized pretty quickly that when they say, "Oh, I want a new business website," they actually want more customers. And so,
Yeah. Right.
a better website can help with the conversion problem. But if you don't have traffic coming to the website, that's another problem that you have to solve. So SEO helps with that problem. Ads can help with that problem. Handing out flyers can help with that problem, but you got to be doing something. So with my technical background, the technical side of SEO was easy for me to understand. And I did do some courses on it as well, just to make sure I wasn't missing things and kind of understood the whole scope of it. But so yeah, mostly self-taught there, and just kind of over time got better at it and learn new tricks. And Google's always changing their algorithms too.
Well, that's the problem, right?
Well, it's only a problem if you're trying to game the system, because if you are just hoping to take shortcuts, then changing the algorithm is a problem for you, because Google's going to figure out, oh, people are just keyword stuffing, right? They put the same keyword 100 times at the bottom in white text on a white background. Okay, Google's smart enough to figure that out. They change their algorithm. Now that no longer works. You drop from number 1 to 400 or whatever. But if you are understanding what Google's trying to do, which is give the best result possible to a person who types in a search query, all right, then I just need to provide the best content that I can and understand the relevant signals to Google that say, hey, here's my really good content. So that could be backlinks. It can be putting the keywords in the title tag in the right places so Google knows how to index you. But then you don't have to worry about those algorithm changes, because it's not like, you're using something that's going to be cut out of the system.
Right, but even if you, but there are, like you said, there's certain signals that you send, that you put on your site that tells Google you're relevant, it's good content, whatever. But don't those change? Like, aren't they constantly? Because everybody's clamoring, obviously, for eye space, right? Everybody's trying to get you to pay attention to me, to pick me as an attorney, to pick you as a marketing person, whatever. So I would think that while we're all clamoring to the top of the pile, the system has to always be adjusted to say, make it, break it down more as the noise gets louder. Because that's really the problem, right? When you first started, there wasn't as much competition, there wasn't as much noise. It was easier. Let's not say easy. It was all new to everybody. But now it just seems to me, and this is just me as a layperson, right? That if you, let's say I hired you, right? And I met you and we hired you, and then we terminated our relationship because I'm like, oh, I guess it's good, So the website's good, SEO's good. In like a month or two, maybe it's not a month, but in a certain amount of time, right? The website goes stale, and the things that were set up that were working are no longer working, right?
It's possible, yeah. Part of the reason for that on the functionality side is that plugins go out of date, and that wouldn't. And then, so a couple things happen, right? That either means vulnerabilities in that plugin get exposed, right? And someone can hack your site, break stuff. Or on the server side, they are upgrading their frameworks, right? Like, okay, we're moving from PHP 7 to PHP 8, and you don't update your plugins for compatibility. Now, you didn't change anything on your site, but suddenly stuff breaks.
Right.
Yeah. On the SEO side, it's, yes, the algorithm could change, but it's more likely that the competition is surpassing you because you've stopped running. That's the main difference there. Because you talked about the signals to Google. There are some basic things that are, we assume are never going to change, that are pretty universal. So like putting a keyword in your title tag or your H1 tag, you should always do that, right? Now, Google may change how much they weigh that slightly, but it's always going to be there, and it doesn't hurt you if it's there either, right? It actually helps the user understand what your site is about.
Right.
So as long as you're helping the user understand, you're helping Google understand, those things aren't going to work against you. So it's mainly about keeping ahead of your competition, continually putting out better content that people like and share. And those are all things that tell Google, hey, this site is better than those other ones.
Yeah, I've kind of learned that in order to create, let's call authority, right? You have to be putting out regular content. It doesn't have to be volumes of content, but it's got to be. I'm curious as to why. We don't have to get into this yet, but I'm curious as to what you think regular content is. I've heard people tell me every month, every week. Somebody told me twice a day. I'm like, well, I got to earn a living and actually have ethics and responsibility to do people's legal work. So I can't do that. But, and then somebody says, oh my God, once a week, that's too much. I don't want to see you once a week. I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of people that are spewing out a lot of stuff.
I'm of the opinion that you should do high quality content. So if you can't do high quality content twice a day or even once a week, okay, don't do it every 2 weeks or once a month. Once a month is fine as long as it's good stuff, right? People will wait for that, and it's not so long that Google thinks you're going stagnant because Google wants to give fresh results too. If your site and another one has identical content, but yours hasn't been updated in 3 years, they're probably going to show the other site first.
Right.
So
they're going to think you're business.
Exactly. So spend the time to make it good. Don't just try to hit an arbitrary cadence just because you think it'll help.
Okay. So you think it's more quality over quantity. And I've heard people say the opposite, that it's more, not that you want to put out really crappy stuff, but that, if it's good stuff, but it's a lot of stuff that you just keep hitting, you'll just keep hitting the search engines and they'll eventually say, well, this guy put out 300 articles on this topic. And obviously, if you do it in a month, you put out 300 articles, I'm sure the algorithm must say, well, wait a second, that's not right.
Well, it depends on the size of the site, because there's definitely those large sites, the BuzzFeeds or the ones where they have a bunch of articles. Sure. But it goes back to Google's trying to give the best result possible, right? So if
to me, the
quality
searcher
is
searching for things.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So quality is the most important there. Quantity can help as long as you maintain your quality. So there's a balance. You can decide, all right, I want 100% quality on every post. All right, I'll go once a month. But if you're like, I bet if I do 80% quality, I could post twice a month. All right, maybe I do that, right? Maybe that's still good enough to be serving your audience and for Google to see that, all right, this is helpful stuff. People like it. But if you start going too low and you're like, all right, twice a day, 10% quality, here we go.
Right.
Nobody's going to link to that or read it. You're undermining yourself.
Yeah. Well, if you're putting out too much stuff, people will be like, how is it possible that a guy with a small business law firm is putting out, 3 articles a day? Like they're obviously coming from ChatGPT or he's stealing it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Google cares.
They don't care?
I don't think Google cares who writes it as long as it's good. Like they're not going to spend server resources trying to identify AI written stuff versus human written stuff. They're going to look at the other signals of, do people like it and read it and share it?
Got it. Right? So using ChatGPT like as a base to start, like, you can't write an article because you have a blank page and you don't know. So you put a query into ChatGPT and then you start from there. That's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't penalize you so for business owners out there, especially if they don't know what the hell ChatGPT is, they've been living in a closet for the last 4 years. It's a good way to start creating content. But I think, there was a guy I had on the show. What was his name? Chris, I think. And he had this company called Blogger Evolution. And what he did was he had a full-time job, and his wife was working, and she got pregnant. So he's like, I got to make other money, right, on the side. So he would find these affiliate programs of maybe a product that he liked, and he would just start writing articles about the product. I'm talking, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100. And, once there's enough articles out there, he would start to get traffic to the site, and people would be buying this product under his affiliate link instead of someone else's. And he would build up several $1,000s of income. And apparently there's a market for this stuff. So then he could sell that for 30 to 50 grand and just start another project, But that's like contrary to what you're saying, right? Because if you put out tons and tons and tons of articles, Google might be like, well, what's the matter with this guy? Why is he putting all this stuff out there? No?
No. I'm just saying if you can maintain quality and have quantity, then by all means do it.
Works.
Just don't let
Right.
the quantity degrade your quality so far that it's, junk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a balance. Obviously, you can't just put out junk and Google's gonna be like, "That's great. He must know a lot." Or
Yeah.
if it's not out very much and it's really good stuff, but you haven't written in 3 years, they're also gonna be like, "Oh, Mitch probably doesn't earn a living, so he can't be in business," right? So, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we take like a 2-minute commercial break? Then we'll come back and maybe we could talk about like the things as a small business owner. Obviously, if I'm a solo or a small business owner, I don't have a huge budget, right? How can I maintain things? What am I looking for on my site and my content that might be right or wrong? Or, I always hear like keywords in the headings, but I don't know if that's enough. I have no idea. So let's take a little break and then we'll talk about that when we get back. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Here's a word from our sponsors.
Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? Aweber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, Aweber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. Aweber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Are you struggling with managing advertising due to a lack of time or expertise? Perhaps you're facing challenges in scaling ads for your store. Are you feeling lost when strategies have no success? GSM Growth Agency is your reliable partner in overcoming these business challenges. Feel the impact of collaborating with a team dedicated not only to short-term goals, but also to building long-term partnerships and achieving sustained success. Embark on an exciting journey to redefine the possibilities of e-commerce and create a legacy of unparalleled excellence. Take decisive action now. Follow their link in the show notes to receive a complimentary audit of your Shopify store conducted by a GSM expert. Propel your e-commerce game to new heights with GSM Growth Agency. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show. Jeff, we're back. You back?
Alrighty. I'm here.
Good. All right. So we were going to get into advice for small business owners. Like, what are they doing wrong? I'd love to hear that. What do you see that people do wrong on a consistent basis? Like they don't get it.
All right. Well, let me set the stage a little bit here because that question can go in a lot of different directions, right?
Okay.
What are we doing wrong for SEO or just for the user experience or anything? And
Good.
when I'm doing a website for someone, I want them to ask a couple of questions. What is this website for? Right? Is it to get new customers? Is it to get investors? Is it to help my existing clients? And then the second question is, what do you want people to do when they get to that page? Right? Is it to fill out a form? Is it to join your newsletter? Is it to schedule a call? Is it to click the call now button? These are all things you need to understand so that we can work backwards and build a page that accomplishes those goals.
Those are what you call conversion, right? Converting the person who gets there to whatever you want them to do, right?
Okay. Correct. And if you've never thought about that, that's why you don't have any conversion. That's why nobody's doing anything, because you haven't done this intentionally and you're just hoping, crossing your fingers, that something's going to happen. So that leads us to one of the first mistakes, is that you didn't think this through from that perspective, right? You just put it up. You're like, hey, we do roofs. Call us.
Right.
We're a family business.
Right.
Exactly. So there's two problems. I think people assume that just because they have a website, people are going to find it, and they haven't done any effort to send people to the website or make it findable on Google, right?
Right.
So that's part of the problem, is just understanding that there's traffic issues and there's conversion issues. As far as the website itself is concerned, the messaging always has issues if someone hasn't thought about this before. They usually
Right.
talk about themselves first off,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um,
Because they
and
think, well, I got to tell everybody that I'm so smart, and then because they're going to come to me, and then they'll know that I'm a great attorney, and they're going to hire me and pay me all kinds of money. People don't
right, but
think
it
that
goes
way.
back to the fact that the best candidate doesn't always win. The best technology doesn't always win. Betamax was higher quality than VHS, but we have VHS today. And there's various reasons for that. One of which was marketing, right? Just
Yeah.
with any business, doesn't matter if you're the best, you can do it faster than somebody else or better quality. You still have to tell people about it and persuade them that that is true. And
Yeah.
so in order to do that more effectively, you have to speak in the language that that person understands, talk about what they care about. And
Mhm.
that's where you start. So
Okay.
most people start by talking about themselves. You got to talk about the customer. And on my podcast, Digital Dominance, we talk about this a lot, right? You need to know your customer so that you
Yeah.
can, we say target them, but what you're doing is understanding them so you can speak to them. And that way the message resonates with them and they are like, okay, this guy gets me. I'm going to keep reading,
Right.
right? The job of the
Yeah.
headline is to get you to read the subheadline. The job of the
Right.
subheadline is to get you to read the next paragraph. And so if you do that intentionally step by step, then you're able to move people towards that end goal, that conversion, whatever it might be.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, but that does beg a question, right? Is that not a question, but an issue of knowing your customer? So, and a lot of
Yes.
people don't, right? They don't take the time to answer people why they're buying or figure that out or, survey. I know some that are always asking their clients, was it good? Was it bad? Why
Yeah.
did you do this? Why didn't you do this? And they can do that. But I think a lot of people, they don't know why their customers are buying. They think they know, right? Everyone thinks they know. You'll ask them, why are they buying? Oh, I know. And 9 times out of 10, you and I both know they're wrong. People don't,
Yeah.
People never make decisions like you think they're going to make decisions. So I think that's right. I think that's one of the missing pieces is that if you're a business owner and you're saying, okay, I need to rewrite my content based on what Jeff is saying, right, to be more focused on them and less focused on me. If I'm not resonating with them and reaching the right audience and I don't really know why they're buying, then it's a little hard to do that.
Right. And you need to revisit that periodically because things change, right? The markets change, technology changes,
Right.
and what people care about changes because of other conversations happening in society. And so
Right.
if you're just assuming that what was true 20 years ago is true today, you're going to have issues. So you got to build it into your workflow to have maybe a survey after the job to get feedback. Or when you first sign on a new client, hey, what made you decide to go with us versus this competitor over here?
Yeah.
Anything like that helps inform you of, the direction to go with it.
Right. And build it into your processes. So it's just part of what you do. Yeah. I think it's interesting because the ones that I know that are good at, answering their clients' questions and interacting with their clients are always, they're even concerned about it. They're like, I don't know why. I know why I think they're buying it, and it's not why. So, yeah, I think that's really important because I guess you can't really write stuff if you don't have the right purview from where you're writing from.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Oh no, go ahead.
No, ask your question.
No, I was just going to say I was going to change the topic, but I want you to say what you were going to say before I do that.
I was going to say it's the most important piece of your website, right? If you have good copy, that will make up for poor design, whereas the reverse is not true. Great design looks flashy, like, oh, wow, cool. As soon as they start reading it, you lost them, right? So when I do a site, the first thing we do is the messaging. We take our clients through a form, ask them a bunch of questions about their business, about their target client, and then we can craft the words. And once we have that, then we put the design around the words to kind of highlight that and make that the most important thing. Because if you don't get it right, there's no point. It is really the most important thing.
Right. And it's just, like I said, it's just a pretty site that nobody's driving by. So there's no content that, like, it's beautiful doesn't bring them in. That doesn't help the search engines, does it? No, it's content.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I had this question because I get the question about like legal services all the time. If I'm a small business owner, I don't have a lot of money, right? I don't know what your range is to, from a basic site to a more complicated site. But so let's assume I'm getting started. I don't even know if this business is going to get off the ground. Do I go to what's a Wix or Squarespace, or are they just don't do, they're not great. They don't do anything. Because I'll give you an analogy, right? People go to LegalZoom all the time, which gives me hives.
Mhm.
But they're not lawyers, right? So you're trying to figure this stuff out, paying for things, don't really know why things are in a contract, can't ask anybody because they're not lawyers, but it does save you money. I don't know if that's a good thing. So what's the feedback on Wix and Squarespace? I guess there's some others out there.
I definitely understand, budgets are tight when you're first starting something. So you got to start somewhere. Like, I'm not going to hold it against you if you go to Squarespace or Wix or something, but I am going to tell you to get off it as soon as possible. Kind of for the same reasons that you don't want people to stay with LegalZoom, right? And the reason for that is these platforms are very controlled and limiting. So their goal is to make it easy to get a website up, right? And so they remove a bunch of options and say, okay, here are your 4 choices. Done. You got a website. Whereas me, on the other hand, like, I want to customize it more to your business to make it a more effective tool. And if their toolbox doesn't allow you to do that, well, you're kind of stuck. Whereas if you use a platform like WordPress, which is fully open source, and I can change any aspect of it that I want, design, implementation, performance, like, I have that all at my fingertips to fully customize. So that's why I'd want people to move in that direction. That's also why I started recently offering a starter website to people, just so that they're on WordPress from the beginning. So for $500, like, I'll make you a simple website. It's not going to have as much of the Exactly. It'll grow with you. You can learn to tweak it, you learn to use WordPress, because this is something that's going to last a long time. I'm not going to put in as much time with the copy and stuff up front. Like, I'll make recommendations for you, but I just want you to start here.
Got it. Yeah. Because it seems like Wix and Squarespace are like really good if you had a scrapbooking club and you wanted to set up your little website and it wasn't a business, right? It's fine. Like, who cares? You're not looking to bring traffic to your site. I guess not. Yeah.
But I mean, if it's something you plan to grow and stick with for a long time, then doing something like WordPress is great, because it does scale well. I mean, it powers 30 to 40, over 40% of the world's websites now.
Right. So what are the other business packages that drive websites out there? Have I heard of them? Forget about Wix and Squarespace. I'm talking like that other developers use that are not WordPress. Because like, I'm on Weblium. Have you heard of Weblium?
I have not. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. So my guy uses that, but are there a lot of them?
I mean, there's Webflow, and there's a lot of like Drupal, or there's another one. What am I thinking of? I'm blanking on the name. But anyways, there's a ton of platforms, and then there's some that are specific to commerce, like Shopify or BigCommerce websites. And those, I usually do service-based businesses, so I don't go too far into e-commerce. Like, I've done some e-commerce sites, but there are benefits to having a platform like that, especially if you're running something out of your garage, right? Because they can calculate. Exactly. They make that part easy. Now, you can build e-commerce websites on WordPress. You just need to have someone who knows what they're doing to set it up. But with that being said, the nice thing about...
What's the plugin? WooCommerce?
WooCommerce. Yeah, that's a popular one.
One of the ones, right? Yeah, I remember that one.
And that, again, because it's on WordPress, there's all these other plugins that enhance the functionality. You can take any form of payment. You can do other integrations to do cool things and subscriptions or whatever you want to do. But again, that has to be set up. So you need someone that understands it. But what I was going to say in terms of the different platforms is, with WordPress, since it is so widespread and well-known, you're always going to be able to find someone who can maintain it or take over for another guy, right? If you needed a coder to manage a custom plugin or something, you can find that. And it's not likely to just disappear tomorrow.
Yeah. So if I'm on another platform and my guy decides he's going to, Brazil, and he's not working anymore, he probably worked from Brazil anyway, but he's not doing this anymore, doing something else. I can't go to you and say, Jeff, can you just flip this over and take it over if it's not on? But on WordPress, you could take it over, right? I mean, you're not stuck.
Yep. I just need a login. I can do whatever I need to do. And it's also easy to transplant a WordPress site from one host to another. So if I'm tired of GoDaddy, I want to go over to Bluehost or Westhost or Frobro, whatever. Like, okay, copy the files and database onto this server. Ding. Now point the domain over and you're good to go. That's literally all it is. Whereas if you come to me and say, hey, I've had this Square site, or it's on Wix, and now I want to move to WordPress, I'm going to tell you, I've got to rebuild it.
Yeah. You can't just pick up and over, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's what I thought. I figured it because I was on a platform way back when I first started in business, and to be honest with you, I don't even know the name of it. It was two guys that were in my networking group. They were very nice guys, and they became clients of mine. I did a lot of work for them, and they handled my site. But they eventually broke up. And, one of the guys got older. One of the guys went off in some other direction, and I couldn't do anything. Like there was nobody from what I remember, that could take this thing over. So I had another client of mine build me a WordPress site, and we got going that. But like I said, I'm on Weblium now. But my guy tells me it's pretty flexible too. So right now it's doing the job. But I'm not an e-commerce site either. I'm service based, like you said. I don't. Nobody's going to my website and ordering a will. Although they could do that right now, but I think we're going to get away from that. Yeah. Because it's all service based, but I'm always constantly rewriting my copy, putting out blog articles, but I also have to earn a living. Do you do that stuff for people? Does your agency do digital marketing, like posting and writing blogs, putting them on social media? That's not what you guys do.
Yeah. So that all falls under the SEO umbrella, because it's basically writing content on your website is a way to give Google additional ranking signals and give yourself opportunities for people to share and find your content, right? So that's something that someone could link to on their blog or post on social media. That's great.
Right.
But within those blog posts, you can also do internal links back to your main service pages to kind of further prop up those pages to say, this page really is important on this keyword over here. So internal links are basically like backlinks from your own site that are just sending those signals to Google.
Okay, so is what you make me think of? How do you write the content? Like give an example of some of the industries you work in. You said a lot of them are service based, right? So who you work with? Doctors, lawyers, like dentists, opticians.
I've got
who you work with?
mental health clinics. I've got landscapers, even some nonprofits. And so any company or organization can have blogs written about something, right? It doesn't have to be that we started or we hired a new person. It can be like, this is why it's important to focus on your mental health. Like that's very broad, but we can get really specific and find the specific keywords that people might be searching for that maybe there isn't as much competition on, and write a detailed article about transcranial magnetic stimulation, why it's a helpful modality and tool, and non-invasive, whatever else. And so you're going to have a better time ranking for those keywords because not as much content is out there for the specific things. So that's all it is, really.
Well, so how do you go about writing an article like that if it's not your background? If you did the research and said, oh, this topic is a narrow topic people are looking for, but it's not a lot of competition, how do you write the article? The doctor has to write the article? How do you do it? What's the process? I'm curious.
Well, it depends on the client. Some clients like writing stuff like that, and maybe they've already collected some reference material, so they can just hand you like what they have, and you can use that as a starting point. If you don't have a starting point, then you kind of just have to do some research. ChatGPT can help, but you got to double check ChatGPT. Don't just trust everything it says. And then, of course, you get that sort of stuff. You definitely want approved by the provider before you publish it, because they're going to read it and say, this part's not accurate, right? Or we need to add something about this. We can't make this claim if we don't add this. Okay, great. So that way it's less work for them to just edit it and tweak it. And you can still get 95% of the way there without being an expert on the subject in most cases.
So you're able to manage all that for them.
Yeah.
Because I would think if you're a medical professional, you're busy.
Yes, it's actually very hard to get content out of them. At one point with one of my clients, they had wanted to try and record some video clips for social media with their various providers, each one recording a few.
Right.
And they had all these great plans. I'm like, all right, let's get them scheduled.
Couldn't do it.
They couldn't get them scheduled. Or finally I get one scheduled and then they'd cancel at the last minute because something came up. And so we gave up on that because they're too busy in the clinic. Like there's no way that's going to happen. So
it's a good idea.
We came up with other ideas. Yeah.
Right. Got it. So, all right. So that moves us in a good direction. Video content versus written content. Does video content help? Is it searchable? Like what's changed? Because I know Google bought YouTube a long time ago, right? Mm-hmm. I think people like to watch videos more so than they like to read. So how does that affect SEO? Does it prop it up? Is it really not doesn't do anything? It's not searchable, is it?
Oh, it is searchable, especially YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine out there, right behind Google, right? If you think of it from that perspective, okay, yes, YouTube is a search engine and they've got a ton of video content. It's long form video content for the most part. They recently added shorts, so now they got some short stuff there too. But they did that because of TikTok, right? Which is another search engine that has short form video content. And more in the younger generations, people are going to TikTok or YouTube Shorts to search for a question. So rather than going to Google like we are used to, they just typed in TikTok and have somebody explain it to them over a short video. And
so now, if there's no tags on the video, a title or whatever that says what this is, can you still find it?
Yes, because what TikTok's doing and YouTube and now Instagram probably too, like they look at the caption or the description that you've written, but they also look at the script, right? What you're saying in the video that gets transcribed and that gets indexed. And so now you can find stuff based on what's being said in the video.
Right. So as long as they're saying things.
Yeah.
Just a picture of a cat jumping off a roof. That might be hard to find unless the cat
Right. That won't help you. So you'd need to lean heavily on the caption to get that rank for something.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense because I was thinking like, how do they index that stuff? But if they're transcribing, is everything? Even this system has AI in it now. They give me a transcription if I want. At the end, I mean, it's getting better, but it's enough to search things, to find out what's going on. All right.
And actually, creators have one more thing. The creators have the option to upload their own transcript, so that will be a more accurate version of compared to the tool that they use for everybody else. So they have an advantage there to make it more accurate. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So I guess, I put up all this stuff on YouTube, so I guess it is searchable even. I have show notes too, but it's not exactly what we're talking about. It's just your background. It's a couple sentences in your bio and then the show notes and credits and stuff.
Yeah. So YouTube SEO specifically, like in addition to the text in the description and the script, thumbnails play a big role in the algorithm, right?
Okay.
Because if you're trying to get your videos in front of people, all right, YouTube decides when to show it to people in their feed, but then your thumbnail really helps decide if they're going to click on it. And so that's why the top YouTube creators like Mr. Beast, they'll go through, dozens of different thumbnail variations to test which one most people click on. And then once people start clicking on one, you stick with it, and that, it's off to the races at that point.
Yeah, Mr. Beast, he's nuts. Just giving away everything. Craziness. And it works.
Yeah.
It's got millions of, crazy. Everybody wants to see what's going on. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? I know you have a website, right? We're going to put all these links in the show notes, but I think isn't it frobrosomething.com?
Just frobro.com.
Just frobro.com? Okay.
Yep.
And I assume you're on Instagram and you're on LinkedIn and you're on Facebook and whatever else.
Yep.
What else is out?
TikTok is out there. Yeah. Frobro Web is my handle on most of the platforms. And I do put out content there just that I talk about for websites and things that I've seen, along with any clips from podcasts sometimes that I've been on. So
yes, and name the podcast again, and I assume it's on all the directories, right? Digital Dominance?
Yeah, Digital Dominance. It is on Apple, Spotify, all the platforms. You can search for it. You can also go to digitaldominancepodcast.com, and that has links to the various places you can find it.
Okay, well, I'm glad Barry introduced us, and always great to have a conversation about this stuff because it befuddles me all the time. I know it sounds like an old person's word, but I struggle with it because I'm busy. I want to get content out. I want people to find me. I don't get as much business through the internet as I would like if something gets out there. But I guess you just keep trying, right? Do you find that your professionals are? What was the question I had for you? Do they? I don't remember. I lost my train of thought. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I think when it comes to doing your own website and the whole digital world, a lot of people are more likely to feel like, I could do this myself, right? Because there are free options, or it feels more accessible. Like I could learn this myself, and you probably could. But the question is, does it make sense to do that, right? There's still expertise here. There's still enough knowledge, and it takes a lot of time, right, away from the other things. And so you've got to, at a certain point, when you're starting out, sure, bootstrap, do it yourself. But as soon as you can, realize having a professional help you with this stuff, saves you a ton of time and mental energy and avoid all the mistakes that you would have been making on your own, when you're really, what you would be doing is creating a second career for yourself, trying to
Right.
manage
How
this
long
at
you
the
been
same
doing
time.
this
And
now? Right? I
I
can
started,
count when you were 14, so you
yeah,
can't
like
replace
my whole
that.
life, basically. This is
Yeah,
second nature to me.
right. Yeah, try and write your own contract. I've done thousands of them for hundreds of clients, and I know what I'm looking for. You're
Yeah.
going to do it once or twice in your life, but I understand people don't, I don't want to do it for free. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So, Jeff, thanks again on a Friday afternoon. I guess it's not Friday afternoon. You're out in California, right? So midday
Yeah, it's about lunchtime.
Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Lunchtime for you, almost 4 o'clock for me. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Mitch.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.